Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my, I had to think a minute, Wednesday afternoon show. I'm very excited to be back on the air, actually. I've had quite a bit of a hiatus here, and I wanted to apologize to any of you that know me personally. Obviously, you know that child problems, between having child problems, having personal issues, having benefits, it's just been an exciting time, but it's been a very busy and a very personally stressful time. So I'm happy to report that Sin Chat Corner is back on the air. I'm very, very excited that now that I am back on, my show host, that's me. My gentleman that's coming on today is none other than Mr. Jason Galka. For those of you that don't know, Jason hosts an actual TV show called The Jason Galka Show in New York, which is one of my favorite places to be in the whole wide world. So without further ado, me and my raspy voice are going to go ahead and interview Jason. So let's get him on the line. Jason?
Here I am.
Oh, my God, here you are. You sound so different.
Well, I don't know if it's because of my cold or if it's just my my phone voice.
No, it actually, you do sound different because I've listened to you on the television, so I'm like, okay, this is a little bit different. I've watched your broadcast, so you sound a little different, and I sound like a boy. So this is going to go really, really well. So thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate this.
Thank
I know you're
you.
a good guy. Oh, my God, we've tried this, like, folks, 3 different times we've had to reschedule, either on his end, my end. So it's like, okay, you know what, let's just get you out of the way. It's a beautiful afternoon. My Marilyn Monroe wine is on its way, so I'm all excited. I'm like, I'm sober, I'm happy, and I have half a wife. So let's see if we can find out about Jason. I wanted to say, obviously, I've been in great anticipation for this interview because to me personally, you're just a classy representation of a media mogul. And I say that not just because, you know, you're out there making millions of dollars, because I'm sure you are, but you carry you have a long-term passion for your endeavor. You have such a charming demeanor from what I can tell. And above all,
thank you.
You have you're quite welcome. You just have this great heart to tackle subjects, meaning that you're not intimidated or afraid to go outside of the box to talk about things that are out of the ordinary, which oftentimes I know that most people might brush over and not want to cover. First question, why such a willingness to bring to light some of these society issues? Why is this important to you?
Well, there's a lot of topics that we do on our show that reach home for me personally. You know, my life wasn't always as great as it's going right now. You know, I too fell to some hard times for the hard economic times in the past recent years. I had a house that I had to give up and, you know, money issues. So I try to touch on a lot of subjects that people can relate to and things that are kind of close to home for me, just to kind of put it out there that, you know, people aren't alone in this world with the topics that we do. And we do a lot of things that people can relate to, and we always try to do topics that people can walk away with something after they're done watching our show. So it's all about helping everybody.
Oh, and that's definitely one of the best reasons to get into this. I mean, I know it's wonderful and loving and terrific, and at the end of the day, if you're making a difference in someone's life, I think hands down that it's substantial. Definitely so. Now, it's my understanding that your actual love of the talk show medium itself commenced as a youngling, actually, where tell us about your early broadcasts, because he used to be in a little basement, and he used to do his shows from the get-go. So kind of take me back there and, like, you just woke up one morning and said, let's broadcast out of a basement?
It's actually kind of funny, because I grew up in the 90s watching all the daytime shows. So a lot of people that are growing up now, they probably don't even know who Sally Jesse is, Ricky Lake, Montel Williams. Those are all big daytime hosts back in the 90s. Ricky Lake is back, obviously. But, you know, growing up, being 9, 10 years old and spending my summers with my grandmother, because my mother worked full-time, she was a single mother. So I was always sitting with my grandparents, and we would sit there and watch the daytime shows in the morning and the early afternoons. And it was just so fascinating to me, like how each host did it so differently and how each topic was differently. And of course, you know, it was considered trash TV back then, so it was very funny all at the same time. So
right.
I just kind of like looked at these hosts and I was like, you know, this is something that I would like to maybe do one day and try it. So, you know, being 9 and 10 years old, I went down to my mother's basement and I took some old lounge chairs and I made a microphone out of a paper towel roll. And I just interviewed, like, friends and family. Like, I was very, very amateur. But it was, like, the coolest thing. And it really just it always kind of sat with me over the years, and, you know, really having no experience in this whatsoever, I never even went to school for it. I actually went to school for accounting, and that's what I did up until almost 2 years ago when I started the Jason Galka Show, which started off as just an amazing opportunity to take, and it actually worked out, which is wonderful. So it is a little bit of a funny story that I started off in my basement, and then all of these years later, it's come to life.
I was just going to say, you know what I found interesting, just in watching you, not only your stage presence, but just in reading some of the things you've said and done before, I'm curious as to why the choice for television as compared to going into maybe radio or maybe even onto screen as far as acting, because I could see that. What made you go in this direction?
Well, I've always been a ham. I've always loved the camera. I've always loved having my picture taken. And, you know, I used to have a little bit of a fear of audience. And, you know, so many people were always wondering, you know, how do you get up and speak in front of people and in front of an audience, and then people actually watch what you do? And honestly, I don't really think about all of those things when it's actually happening, because we do spend a lot of time putting time and effort into the show, obviously, but then when it's actually being filmed, you kind of forget about all that, and you don't really realize, for me anyway, I don't realize that the cameras, all that is there, and, you know, I'm always focused on my guest. So it's actually very easy for me. But like I said, I grew up as a big ham, and I loved having my picture taken and loved being in home movies. So I think I just took my drive for wanting to help people and my love for television, just combined the two.
Make perfect sense, of course. I kind of figured as much, yeah, because you really have that. And the thing is, I don't think most people understand this, if they're not in this kind of a medium. There is that, and I still get this to this day. 5 minutes before the show, I'm texting somebody or I'm calling them like, holy shit, I'm going to be on the air in 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's still that hesitancy and sort of nervousness and, oh, my gosh, you
yeah.
pull it off very well. I would never guess that you have one iota of an issue ever, judging by looking at you.
Well, it actually, doing the show now over a year, the show is almost a year and a half old now, and I think each week for me especially, it gets easier and easier, and now it's almost like second nature, but I still get that little, not so much nervousness a few minutes before the show, but that anticipation, you know, it's that build-up, and then it actually happens, and I always have such a great audience who come see the show. We do give out free tickets for people that want to come sit and actually see what we do live, and I feed off of them. So I'm a little nervous, and I'm anticipating beforehand, but then once they're having a great time and they're laughing and clapping, like I feed off of that, so then everything just gets better right there.
Sure, I imagine so, definitely. Now, one of the things I find interesting is I know some parents that are out there are kind of like, oh, I don't want my kid out in the limelight, and they're just very protective. And were your parents of that mindset, or were they more like, you know what, Jason, this is your dream, go chase it, we're here 100%?
I'm not going to say that my mom, well, I grew up with only my mother, you know, single mom.
Right.
She just raised me on her own. So it's not that she doesn't support what I do, and not that she didn't support what I do. She always just said, you know, I think because there's a lot of rejection in this field too, that she was kind of trying to hide me from that, you know, why don't you go be a teacher, why don't you go be a doctor or something, and I always just kind of had this in the back of my mind that if the opportunity arises, I at least want to try out for it, and that's exactly what I did. So I don't think my mother completely understands what I do, but she has said she's proud of me. I believe that she is, but not everybody understands the whole television talk show and what goes into it kind of thing. So I think it was just more that they don't really understand what it is I do exactly, but they do support me.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Now, do you have siblings in a like profession, or is it just you?
No, it's just me. I'm an only child.
Special Jason, isn't that wonderful? Oh,
so I was always spoiled growing up.
Oh, I imagine, and I'm betting that you're probably still spoiled to this day now, aren't you? I'm going to guess.
I am.
Not
it doesn't change as you get older.
No kidding, right? That's exactly right. Now, I wanted to note that your first actual live hosting was in Suffolk County in the year 2012, which I know marked the commencement, of course, of the Jason Galka Show, which is April of the same year. Were you ever engrossed in any kind of educational training prior to this point, meaning pertaining to broadcasting or television, or where did you get the bulk of experience pertaining to your career?
Well, when I originally got the job to do this show, a lot of the producers that are at the television station did work closely with me and groom me and kind of train me as far as, pacing yourself, how to read off of a prompter, things like that. And I've also watched on YouTube. YouTube is a wonderful thing. Our show is on there, obviously, and I've watched past shows on there. And I look at other hosts, and I kind of taught myself a lot of things, too, over the years. And just watching how Ellen hosts or Ricky hosts, I kind of look at all of that much closer than a normal person would, and I try to teach myself things. And that's actually how I've done it. And, during a taping, sometimes it takes me 2, 3, 4 times to get my introduction right. Like, I don't want to stutter or I don't want to miss a word or mispronounce it. Like, to me, I don't want it going out there looking like that. So we'll stop and do 2 or 3 takes. And, just by doing it and practicing, I've learned a lot in just doing that as well.
Sure, I imagine so, definitely. Were there particular elements of the industry that proved most intriguing to you? I mean, I know you want to get a message out there and you want to be able to inspire and get to other people, but was there just something about television that you just thought on tickled pink? That one thing that you maybe got from watching Ricky or Ellen or from one of your inspirations? What kind of pushed you to say, this is where I want to be?
I think it was several years ago when I was one of the people of many that fell through the hard economic times, and I was forced to give up my home, and my relationship was coming to an end, and I just really needed a way to reinvent myself. And I was still doing my accounting job, and not that it's a boring job. I mean, it kind of is. Numbers is boring, but I wanted something more exciting. I felt like I got a second chance. I was able to sell my house and get out of it safely without damaging my credit or anything like that. But it was still devastating because it was my home that I purchased and put a lot of money and heart and soul into. So I really just needed a way to reinvent myself. And then when the opportunity came up to do this young generation type talk show on Long Island, I figured, this is something that I grew up watching. I can do this. I can learn it. I'll do whatever I have to do to learn it. I want to go for it. So combining just that need to reinvent myself and regroup myself, and this is what the outcome has been. So it's been an amazing turnaround.
Definitely. Now, did you find yourself, when you did like your first initial tapings, let's say, did you find yourself intimidated and thinking to yourself, whoa, maybe I'm not that great at this, or just nervous at the initial stuff?
Yeah, I still do that.
Really?
I still do that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are our own worst critics, and I always, I try not to watch my show back because then I'll see things that I could have done differently, and I'll totally drive myself crazy over it because I'm like a perfectionist. So I watch it back, and I'm like, I could have did that differently. I could have sounded differently. I could have asked it a different way, asked the question a different way. But, we're also our own worst critics, so I kind of take that into consideration, too.
Me too, definitely. I agree with you there. Now, to talk a bit about your program, obviously, it typically attracts itself to a very youthful crowd, I would think, and I would gather largely due to, of course, the meaningful content. You do exploration of things such as dating and relationships, lifestyles, bullying, spiced up with a dose of, at times, varied entertainers. So for me, it seems to be logically a top-notch strategy. So let's take a peek behind the scenes for just a minute. As it relates to content, set design, things like that, is that a combination of you and your team, or is that all specific Jason?
I think as far as the set goes, definitely more me, because when the show was getting off the ground and I went to the set decorator, says I want something bright and colorful and fun, because even though we do touch on a lot of touchy subjects, a lot of inspirational, heartbreaking stories, there's also, like you said, a fun aspect to the show. So we want to also keep it upbeat. So that's why we bring in the musicians and the comedians and other sorts of talent, just to kind of liven it up every so often. And the greatest feedback that we get is people like that. It's always different each week, and you don't know what you're going to get until you tune in. Sometimes you need a box of tissues at hand, and sometimes you're laughing. So we like having that big mix-up. And between myself and several other members of my staff, who I have an incredible staff, I have to say thank you to all of them, we all think of show topics, and we all think of things that have touched our hearts that we put out there in our castings, and we do get replies. And, For me especially, I'm going back to when I fell to hard times. Hearing somebody else's story has always brought me comfort. Like, okay, I'm not the only one out there experiencing this. And we all know that we're never the only person experiencing something, but it's nice to actually have a face and a name to go with it. So you take more comfort in knowing somebody specific. So, that comes from a combination of all of us who work together on the show.
Definitely. Now, is there ever a point where, as it relates to the programming part, and I call it get the control taken away from you, meaning there are particular topics that you might want to do that maybe your team differs upon, and then it's kind of like where your team comes to you and says, you know what, this may not be a great fit for the show, but you're pretty insistent. Does that ever happen to which where there's some kind of a control issue there as it relates to content?
No, nothing. No, it's never happened so far in the whole year we've been doing it.
Cool.
No.
That's awesome.
We're always
we're
on the same page.
Awesome. That is absolutely great. Okay, now curiously speaking, obviously, we know that you're based in New York, but let's say that, for instance, you're based LA or somewhere else. Might you feel more swayed to gear your subject matter in any and all ways as far as how you do your program, just due to location?
Well, we are actually doing more on location now as we speak. We are actually covering a huge film festival this weekend coming up, and I actually taped the first part of it with the director of the program. We did it as a studio show. He came to my studio. We talked about it. We met some of the guests that are going to be there. And then this coming Friday, actually, we're going to be there on location, getting footages and doing more interviews out there, making it a two-part show. So this year we're actually revamping the show in a huge way, where last year we were really just starting out and we were just kind of picking topics to see if people would bite at them. And now we have two brand new producers on our show now. We have a brand new editor that's awesome. So we're doing bigger and better things this year. And one of the things that we are focusing on is doing more on location, doing more lifestyle type shows. So we're trying to help people to live healthier, live happier, also going out there doing more on location shoots just to brighten up the show a little bit more and doing bigger things this year. It's really been great.
Oh, definitely, and exciting too, no doubt, I would think.
Yeah.
You know how we all have for ourselves, obviously me included, is there that particular point in your own mind where, and I call it reaching the mountaintop, which means you have a mountaintop as far as your highest personal or professional goal? At what point do you think you're going to say to yourself, you know what, I've done exactly what I wanted to do and that's it? Or will there be that point?
I don't know if we're right now because it is still so new for me. I don't know if it ever will be. I mean, I look at Barbara Walters, who is well up there in age, and she's retiring next year, God bless her. But I look at everything she's done, and like, I want to be able to climb every mountaintop, or I want to go to the top of every mountain and go to different places and cover stories. So really, I have so much further to go before I say, okay, it's time to throw in the towel and let's retire and relax a little bit. There's no time in my life to relax right now. I'm really on this high of just doing the show and putting it out there and having people enjoy it. And, of course, getting the positive feedback, I'm feeding off of that. So it's just pumping me higher and higher. So I have a long way to go before it's time to retire.
No, I understand that completely. I definitely do. I get it. That's for sure. Okay. Now, you're obviously a resident of New York. You obviously, they are native of Long Island, if I'm not mistaken. And, of course, obviously you and I are in a similar career, meaning obviously you're on television, but I'm on radio, so kind of sort of the same. Mm-hmm. You and I have both hosted, I just realized, Jeff Algie of New Life Crisis. You've had him on your show. I've had him on my show before, who's just a hands-down consummate professional. Oh, yeah, he's great. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, God, the whole group was phenomenal when they did it. He's an awesome.
He is a top-notch guy. I absolutely adore him, and I know that you and I, of course, have a few mutual kinships and a few mutual friends, obviously. Now, you, I wanted to pose this question. You did an interview with Freddy Krueger, and I was curious about that. I'm like, he interviewed Freddy Krueger. How did that come about? Because I think that's totally cool. I'm like, what the heck?
That
How
was
many
a lot
times
of
do
fun.
people want to do that?
It was actually one of it was actually one of the film festivals that I had covered. I was working on another show earlier this year that got canceled by the network, and they took me out as a segment producer. So I went onto the field a couple of times and got, on-location interviews for this particular show. Had nothing to do with mine, but I I had so much fun doing it at that festival that it's the same festival that we're covering under the Jason Galka show this weekend, and it's a horror film festival, and they do it twice a year. So they have characters like Freddy that roam around. They take on a lot of new producers and directors who submit their films, and you can actually sit and see some of the films. We got great interviews with somebody like Freddy. Jonathan Tiersten was another one I got an interview with. He was a soap star way back in the day. And, we're doing it again this weekend, but I'm doing it under the Jason show as opposed to the other show that I did back in January. So when Freddie was roaming around, I'm like, it's the coolest thing to just get an interview with him, the nightmare himself.
Right.
And he was a lot of fun.
And that's got to be so exciting, too, because it's not like dating. I'm okay. It's not like interviewing your average person, clearly. I like to see that out of the box. I'm very, very cool.
No, I interviewed a legend.
One of them, right? I mean, some people may not look at it that way, but heck, if I had Michael Myers on my show, well, I'd be intimidated. But
absolutely.
I would love that. That's fun. I mean, it's just you like to have fun with your show. That's important. Otherwise, I think it gets dull if you don't spice it up a little bit, As a host yourself, if I turn the tables on you, like right now, let's say role-wise, the tables are kind of turned on you, are you more likely to be uncomfortable with the scenario? Do you always prefer to be the person asking the questions and digging in? Or is this okay to kind of lay back and be like, hey, all the pressure's off of me, it's all on her? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely love it. I always tell people my life is an open book, and, I've learned so much. I'm only 29 now, and I've learned so much over the years and about life in general that I'm willing to share anything that you want to know. My life is an open book.
That's absolutely awesome. I love that. That's great. Because sometimes, people have that. I think in media, it's like that power control thing where it's like, my show, my call, my this. I always have to be the big guy, so sometimes it's hard to turn it around a little bit and be like,
actually, it's easier to be a guest than a host.
Yeah, no
I'll tell you
kidding,
what my
right?
office hours are like. My office hours are like, we go through emails, we screen the calls, we see who we're going to book, and then, we're making questions and formats. I mean, this is much easier.
Oh, God, I imagine so. It sure is. Now, if you think back in your career so far to date, could you tell me both sides of the fence, the show that you've done thus far that's been the most pleasurable, and alternatively, the one that's been the most painful for you personally?
I would have to say the most painful one, this one sticks out the most in my mind, is a show that we did about drunk driving. It was a mom and three of her young children who were all under the age of 10 who came on the show, and she shared such a heartbreaking story of how a drunk driver took the life of her husband. And that kind of hit home for me a little bit, too, because not only did I feel for this poor woman and these three beautiful young children, I mean, I think the oldest was maybe 7 or 8. And I think back because when I was back in high school, a really great friend of mine who I'm still friends with today, her brother was killed by a drunk driver in the worst possible way. I mean, he died pretty much like, I don't want to be too graphic here, but burning alive because the car had exploded the way the impact was. So that was one story that really hit home for me personally because I've known that family for years. And really the most pleasurable is just I love the musicians that come on and New Life Crisis being included in that because they are so talented. And there is so much raw talent just in the Long Island, New York area. We don't need people. I mean, we have people that have been on American Idol and shows like that. But there is so much raw talent that people haven't seen other than at maybe a beach club or a wedding hall or something. There's so much talent out there that we like to put them on our show and let people say, hey, look, these people are out there and they're pretty good,
Right.
That's what I have to say.
Okay. And did we get to the most pleasurable one? We did the top notch?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say that's got to be the most pleasurable is like just interviewing the bands and the groups and the singers, people with talent. Those are really the most fun.
Is it, and maybe I just feel guilty in asking this question because it's kind of like I've done a number of musicians too, and that's my top notch too. But then I think to myself, if I were to ask you to pinpoint one, that's probably difficult, isn't it? That's what I'm thinking. Should I rethink this question?
It is.
Because if I ask the most, it's kind of like could be in trouble.
Well, it's hard because we do have a lot of talented people that come on our show, so it's hard to single one out, but really the most enjoyable shows are the talents, and I've become such close friends with so many of my guests that have been on my show. I still keep in contact with them. I've developed very close friendships with some of them, Amber Ferrari being one of them. She's from Long Island, and she's a phenomenal, phenomenal singer. and she's done my show several times. So I really enjoy doing those types of shows where there's musical talent. You know, the audience is up and they're dancing and they're laughing and having a great time. I feed off of that. So that's, you know, those types of shows is my favorite to do.
That's very, very cool, definitely. Now, one last question to that effect. If I were to ask you
Sure.
if there's one person out there, just one that you can think of, that you would refuse to host, is there such a thing?
No, and the only reason I say, I mean, I do know people that come to mind that I would say absolutely not, but the only reason that I would is because I do give everybody the chance to tell their story. If they really do have a story to be told and something that people can either agree with or disagree with, because I like controversy like that. I like to hear what other people think and what they have to say and what their feedback is. That's important to me because then that helps me to grow as a host and going forward with topics. So even though I'm thinking of people off the top of my head, I'm not going to use names, but I absolutely would not have them on, but yet I would.
Yep.
I
know what you're talking about. Yeah, I totally follow it, definitely. I get it. Okay, now I'm going to flip you a little bit here. I am very big, myself personally. I always like to reveal to the audience what I call the man behind the myth, so to speak, because most people, I think, look at other people in entertainment and think, oh, he must live and breathe television all the time. Well, so not true, because obviously even most public figures, more times than not, are far more normal and have tons of real-life interests that people don't know about. So, for instance, I just wanted to catalog a few interests of yours, tell people, I know that you enjoy, from a musical standpoint, Alanis Morissette, Mary J. Blige, and Phil Collins. Tuning to your own medium for a second, I know that you're a fan of Storage Wars, Faceless,
yes,
and the infamous Chelsea Handler. So I got to ask this. What is this
Sure.
love fest for Chelsea Handler? Because I don't get it, because she just annoys me to the deep end of the earth. I don't know what it is about her, but everybody loves her. So what is lovable about Chelsea Handler to you?
I think it's just her whole persona in general, you know, right down from head to toe, basically, like her style, her physique, everything. And I think because she does kind of have like that annoying quality, that's kind of what makes her, and that's kind of why people, I think, are in love with her.
Sure, tell me about it. I know, and they just like, sometimes they don't want to admit it because that's got the little Chewy on there, little midget guy and all that stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could interview her. I think she'd be a little too over the top.
I think it's a lot of people's guilty pleasure. I don't know. What do you think? I think it's a guilty pleasure.
No, I think Real Housewives is a guilty. Oh wait, I admit that I watch Real Housewives. No, Real Housewives, that's kind of a guilty pleasure. You know, things along those lines, or like Hoarders. I would want to not admit that I watch Hoarders. You know, I think I've seen it once.
I know, because it's so gross, but I love it.
I know.
It's one of those things, like, it's so gross, but like, you can't change the channel and you can't turn away from it because you'll miss something.
That's exactly right, see? You know what I mean? So now in that little bulk of free time, because I'm going to say little because I know myself, obviously I have such little time as it relates to there's kids, there's work, and that's it. So now if I take out your equation of the work part, downtime. What does Jason do in his downtime?
My downtime, I spend a lot of my free time with the most wonderful man in my life, John. We have a beautiful place on Long Island together and a beautiful little dog. So we like to spend a lot of time, you know, going out. We go out to the Hamptons a lot. Specifically, there's a great spot out there at the end of Long Island in Montauk called Gurney's, which we spend a lot of our free time out there. And it's beach, it's spa, it's beautiful. So if anybody's ever visiting the Long Island area, definitely have to check that out. But, you know, he also spends a lot of time going with me on my shoots and my on-location things, and he actually works with me on my show now. You know, he's working as a producer and one of my directors as well.
Right.
So it's kind of like a mom-and-pop thing we got going on now.
Yeah, I was going to cite that as a matter of fact, because for those that don't know, obviously, John serves a dual role, not only being your fiancé, but as you mentioned, senior producer / director of the show. Now, I know that you're going to say, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyways, because I've had pairings before on the radio show before where it's like, I can only imagine, because you work so closely together, you know, there has to come a point in time where, let's say that, you know, we squabble with our significant other at times, and now you're in that capacity where you work together. Do you ever find that to be a challenge for you?
It hasn't. It hasn't. And we've been together almost a year now, and, you know, working together on the show at least 6 months now. So But, we still have that time apart from each other. There's times when I go in for office hours and, he goes off and does his thing and things. So we do have time apart. I think that's important, too, because then you allow yourself to miss each other and can't wait to be with you kind of thing. So so far that has not at all been a challenge. It's actually been great and just given so much of a great outcome to the show that we collaborate together like this and working together. We're very professional at the same time. When we're in the work atmosphere of the show, we're very professional, especially in front of our guests and our audiences. So there's really a time and a place for those things, and we definitely separate the business from the pleasure when we're actually there, if that makes sense.
Okay. And you're able to distinguish that, yeah. Because some people can't, you go to work and then you have the squabble or whatever happens, and I get that. And let me just tell you this much, folks, because I am friends with him. Good Lord, that boy you're getting married to, he is pretty. I'm just saying, pretty nice looking. He kind of lets himself out. Jason's like, oh, yeah, I got me a hottie. Thank you very much. I'm single. I'm a girl, and I can't even get a hottie. So kudos to you, man.
Oh,
I'm very pleased.
He definitely is my hottie.
That's a good thing. Very, very good. So a couple questions relative to you personally. As far as it relates to others, either whether it be in the industry that we're in or personally, acceptance of yourself as far as from your lifestyle, has it been for the most part encouraging by others, or do you think more so challenging just as far as, not everyone is so socially accepting as far as sexual orientation, lifestyle, etc. Do you ever find that to be a challenge where you are?
I have to say that it's neither here nor there kind of thing. It's a little of both, because, again, like you said, you have those people that don't accept the gay, lesbian, transgender lifestyle. And I say all three of those because we've had all different types of people on the show, including transgender. And at the same time, it has worked for me, where people do encourage me because of that, because there is so many people that do enjoy gay men and gay women, and look at Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live. People love him, and he's openly gay. So it's kind of a little bit of both. But, whatever it is, I always feed off of it. I take the best of it, take the worst of the situation and make it the best. So
makes perfect sense, of course. Now, as it relates to you two, I'm a girl, so I don't know if you know this or not, but us chicks, we dig all the really cool stuff. So give us a little lowdown on the love story. How'd you all meet?
We actually met a year ago. Yeah, it's over a year ago now. And, he'll tell you the story a different way than I would tell it. But basically, when I first met him, my show had just started. And I didn't think that I really had, the time for a relationship, so it didn't pursue. And that's all on my fault. That's my doing. Because I figured, I just sold my house. I was getting out of a relationship. And I was like, the show just started. I don't know if I can devote time like that to somebody else. And I certainly don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because that's not the type of person that I am. And then we did stop speaking, and he was upset by it, and I felt bad. And then over the summer, I was asked to host a Miss Long Island pageant in September. So just after where he was working at the time, his boss had asked me if I would do this pageant. And, I asked, well, does John still work for you? And she says, yes. I says, okay, well, tell him I said hi. I didn't even know what to say. And, so there's a little bit of awkwardness there for a while. So then, long story short, the end of the summer was rolling around. We're coming up close to the Miss Long Island pageant. And, I think on both parties, he and I had to make it, comfortable. So he had actually texted me a couple of weeks before and said hi, and I said hi. But I didn't know who it was at first because he ended up changing his number. So when he writes me, hey, with a smile face, I'm like, who's this? He's like, well, this is John. I says, well, I would have known that if you didn't change your number.
Right.
So then we ended up reconnecting just before the pageant, and then he was actually my personal bartender the night because it was at a nightclub where it was held. And he was my personal bartender, and then it went from there. We went on a date 2 nights later, and then we dated again the next night, and the next night, and the next night, and then, before you knew it, it was the most wonderful thing that's happened in the world out of everything. And here we are today. We're getting married next year, June 20th, and nothing just feels more right.
That is absolutely, absolutely awesome. Now, of course,
so for people that don't believe in love at first sight, it is possible.
Yeah, I was going to say, because your relationship hasn't been years and years and years, obviously, and stuff like that.
Right.
Was it a nice romantic proposal? We hope.
It was. It was at Rockefeller Center on the ice. He couldn't get down on his knee because he has a bad knee, so he would have fell. But so we were on the ice together, and he pulled out the ring, holding on for dear life to the railings.
Oh my God! Kudos to you,
it really
John,
was a
man.
beautiful
I give him a lot of
experience.
credit. That's absolutely awesome, and I couldn't be happier for you, because you know what, people don't always find
Thank
that.
you.
I mean, sometimes it takes a lifetime. It really does, actually. So, and some of us are still looking.
For some people, it really does. And both of us had been in relationships before. I was coming out of an 8-year relationship. He had been in relationships before, and for me especially, I've never felt this way about anybody, not even the person I was with for 8 years. So you just know when it's right.
Right.
So for people that think that, it's too soon, that's not possible, it is possible, And unfortunately, there was another couple that we knew. They were engaged and married within 3 months of knowing each other, and they were together 4 years. And the only reason they're not together anymore is because the one partner had passed away. He was sick with cancer. But, you just know when things are right, and you just got to go with it.
I agree with you 100%. So now I have a great idea for a show for you, because some of us are single, like me. So here's my thought. You can just have me on your show, and I have this one little tiny thing that I want. I have my life partner already picked out, but it's in my head, you see. I have this fantasy that Kiefer Sutherland is eventually going to realize that I've been in love with him for 2 years. And I probably could just have a whole show where you just get Kiefer Sutherland, the actor, on there, and I'll just, propose a date right there. It'll be like history right on television. It'll be great ratings. Everybody will watch. It'll be great.
We could do it as a surprise show. We'll bring him out from backstage.
Oh, my God. I think then you'd be resuscitating me on the damn ground. I'm like, oh, my God, goodness gracious. But I do, what, though?
So
honest to God, though, that's the new stigma out there. I think that there's a lot more shows that are coming out, like, not just The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, the love doctors and things like that. I mean, there's a real thing out there about relationships and dating. There's a whole field for that. My God, you can make a whole other reality show.
And we've covered it, too.
That's right.
That would be a great
there you
show,
go. Yeah,
we could bring him out from backstage. He'll have no idea why he's there, and there you are.
Oh, my God. Here I am. I've been waiting forever and ever and ever. Yeah, and then he's going to say, get the straight jacket, you crazy loon. Yeah, good luck. I post it every day in the house.
You never know.
That's right. I am going to L.A., so I might just get a lucky chance. Now,
very nice.
I wanted to kind of, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, right? I just keep getting 1 inch closer. Every time I get to another actor, I'm going to get a break. I know it. I am. And then one day I won't have to worry. It'll be my husband, and I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, okay. Now we're going to get away from Fantasyland and talk about, sadly, some of the real parts of life here. Wanted to ask you a couple of your thoughts on this. You personally, do you feel that it's accurate to state that other people or other individuals out there might expect your shows in larger part to circulate around things such as LGBT issues due to your own status?
I'm not sure I understand.
Meaning, for instance, let's say that I happen to be a lesbian. And so because people know this and I am very outward and that's public knowledge to most people, do you think that most people will expect you, because of your orientation, automatically to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to host shows more oftentimes than not with lesbians or gays or talk about LGBT issues? Is that expected, do you think, out of you? Or have you found that to be the case?
No, I wouldn't say that it's expected, but it's definitely a question that a lot of people do ask. We don't consider ourselves a gay issues talk show. Being a gay host, that's one thing, but we really get great feedback and great response to so many different things that we do. But we do cover gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender topics. We've had 2 transgender guests, actually, that have been on our show in the past year or so, and one being an amazing musical talent. So, we definitely touch on those subjects, but we don't classify ourselves as a gay issues talk show.
Gotcha. And now, the other day, somebody had made this statement to me, and I'm curious, again, your take on this. Would you be inclined to go with the masses? Because this person said to me, there's a large group of people out here that believe this. The recent assessment that acceptance of all sexual orientations and, of course, marriage commitments is still nowhere near the point of being equal for all.
I don't think it's anywhere being equal at all. I think some states, including New York, have come a very long way with equal rights and legalizing gay marriage. But I think the United States as a whole has a long way to go with equality. And, I was never somebody that was so interested in marriage rights to marry men because I didn't have that person in my life that I was considering to marry like I do now. So my point of view has changed. I went from being like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter to me, like, yeah, it does matter because you find the person that you love, and it's not just about let's just hurry up and get married because we love each other. Right. It is that, but it's also there's so many other legalities with being married that, I always look at it as, God forbid, something was wrong with one of us and we were in the hospital and, I want to be there for him if he's laying in ICU, and I want him there for me if I'm laying there. So it's not just gay people just running to get married for the heck of it. It's, we look at it as we want the same rights as a husband and wife has. We want to be under insurance policies, and we want to be able to get into an ICU, God forbid there's something wrong with one of us. So some states have come a long way with it in legalizing it, but the U.S. as a whole has such a long way to go with it.
Oh, I imagine so. Now, as it stands right now in New York, because obviously you're a New Yorker, what's the stance there, do you think, by and large, with the population there? Where is everybody standing these days as it relates to marriage equality, et cetera?
I think honestly, in my opinion, I'm going to say it's more than half. I would say that New York is a lot more accepting of gay, lesbian, transgender people, only because there is such a huge area in New York City alone. There's the whole Chelsea area of gays. Right. And I think, when you have that whole area, plus we have Fire Island, which is a huge summer hangout for gays and lesbians and people like that, it is more accepted, but again, it's not 100%. But I'd say it's definitely, much more than the half mark that, it is more acceptable here.
Sure. I imagine so. I mean, when I was there, obviously, I just hung out with a whole group of people, as a matter of fact, all gay individuals and stuff, had the greatest time. And I think a lot of times I feel very badly for people because I do notice that, like, for instance, I have mental health issues. I'm a bipolar person myself. And usually the minute that someone finds that out, there's reservation or somewhat of a rejection as it relates. That stare that you get or that look kind of like people aren't outwardly going to tell you what you're doing. You're out of the norm, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes that can be a little difficult for individuals. Have you ever found that to be a struggle as far as, for instance, like I've been approached by a few people, and once they find out that I have certain difficulties in a certain area, it's prevented me from working with them. Have you ever had that situation?
I haven't personally, no, but I know people that has happened to, and I know that it does happen. I just happen to be somebody who's fortunate that hasn't happened to me, but then again, a lot of people that are in my life and who I associate with, they are accepting of me and what I do, and I wouldn't associate myself with somebody that has an issue with my sexuality. So for me personally, it hasn't happened, but I do know it's out there.
Oh, certainly. Most definitely, I have to say. Now, last thing as it relates to this, and we'll move along. For those individuals such as myself who are straight in orientation, and if there's any good advice that we can do you think there's anything we can do to kind of change the tide as it relates to marriage equality? For those of us who are straight, we a lot of times for our friends who aren't and who want the marriage equality struggle that there's nothing we can do. Do you think there's anything we can do to make it more of a forefront out there and to be able to be helpful in that regard?
Well, I think that is a good question, and maybe I have an obvious answer, maybe I don't. But,
sure.
I mean, I'm not too big into politics, so I'm not really sure what the right route would be to go. But certainly, here in America, we vote for everything. So with, the straight people as, or heterosexual, that's the proper terminology here. If heterosexual people do know somebody who's gay or lesbian, definitely support them. And if there is an opportunity to vote yes for marriage equality in your state, by all means do so, because we're not hurting anybody. We just want to be able to spend the rest of our lives with somebody who means so much to us, just like your husband and your wife means to you. We just ask that everybody just supports us, whether you're gay, straight, or not. We all just want the same thing. So whatever you can do, if there is the opportunity to maybe vote in your state for it, please vote yes for it and support somebody that you know, or just support us. Because, again, we're not hurting anybody. We just want to be with the person that we want to spend the rest of our life with, and we want to do it legally.
Definitely. Makes perfect sense. And especially when there's so much ignorance out there and so many people that get so flustered right off the
Absolutely.
bat because how dare two men want to have the same equality? Well, who the hell died and made you boss? I mean, the reality of the situation is there's no one standing out there saying that two men deserve this as compared to a man and a woman deserve this. Everyone should deserve the same thing and be treated the equal.
Exactly.
It's so
that's
sad.
Exactly what it is.
It's saddening.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's ignorance is what it comes down to because they don't fully understand. I mean, there are people out there that do give gays a bad name. You know, there's lesbians that give lesbians a bad name, but there's also straight people that give straight people a bad name. So,
oh God, yeah,
you know,
definitely. Let me tell you,
it's both sides.
Sometimes I like gay people more than straight people just because they're jackasses. So, you know, I really don't think orientation has anything to do with it. It just has to do with character and morals and what you're made of. That's what it comes down to. Gosh.
Exactly.
Now, I got to pat you on the back, my friend, because you had been nominated for Entertainer of the Year by Outlook Long Island.
Oh, yes, thank you.
You're like, well, I just shocked them. Did I remind you of something? That's you.
Well,
yes.
You did, actually. I was nominated, but unfortunately I didn't win this year. But, you know, I don't take it personally because it was my first year in doing this. It was my first year ever being in the public eye and doing a television show and doing what I do. So I'm just grateful to be nominated. You know, next year and the year after that, if I don't win anything, then I'll be upset. But, you know, the first year doing this.
I have to win. I'm so wonderful. Listen to you. Oh, my God. To those that are listening. Yeah, go ahead.
I know, I was just saying, I use it as a stepping stone because, you know, although it's just nominated, that's great. You know, again, it's something I've never done before. I'm doing this show. I'm still getting it under my belt. So, in going forward, I hope to get something in the next year or 2 years down the line because then it'll just show that we're really improving and we're really trying.
Makes perfect sense, actually. Do you want to let the listeners know, to those that probably aren't familiar with it, a little bit about what Outlook Long Island is, and moreover, what do you feel, what made you most qualified to be a nominee, do you think? What was it about you that you think got you to that point?
I think what got me nominated was the show, because Outlook Long Island is a gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual magazine, and it basically it's filled with all of stories that relate to gay community and gay people and accomplishments. And I think just the topics that I did, because we did do a whole bunch of topics related to the gay community throughout the year, gay bullying, growing up gay, family acceptance, transgender guests have been on our show to talk about why they're transgender and why they want to change their life over. So I think it was a lot of those topics that we did in the past year that's what got me the nomination, which I'm so grateful for. And but that's really what the magazine is. It's just targeted to the gay community. And it's really a great magazine as well.
And I checked it out. I think I've seen it once or something like that, but I know most people aren't familiar with it. But nonetheless, you know what? It's so nice to be nominated. I mean, it's a real, hey, you know what? Jason's doing a really good job, and people are recognizing that. That's very, very cool. And further, I found it very impressive. You had lent your time and efforts to holding a Hurricane Sandy benefit. So I'm hoping, first and foremost, your personal life, were you affected by that at all as far as the disaster itself?
We weren't, thank goodness. And where we were on the island, we got very little damage. And if we lost power, it was literally for only several hours. But, you know, our hearts went out to those poor people that were without electric for days and days and days. It was, I couldn't even imagine. But we did suffer with the whole gas shortage. I mean, my car had sat in the driveway with no fuel for several days. And it was just, I mean, that was the worst part that we had gotten. But we know that so many people out there are still suffering from the after effects and having to relocate and rebuild homes. It's just, it was really bad here on Long Island, you know, the further west you go.
Oh, I imagine so. Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to ask, since, of course, we're over here in the Midwest and you're over there. Where do you stand now? I mean, is the city far better off now? Are you still struggling? Are there still things that we can do to offer assistance here?
I think there's a lot of people out there that are still struggling. Just the people that really lost their homes, that went down to the ground, that lost all their belongings, family heirlooms, photographs, things that you can never get back. You know, they're still struggling, and they probably will be for so long. But, you know, Long Island here have done so much to help these people and giving them places to stay. As a matter of fact, when we did the first film festival in Rockville Center back in January, there were a lot of people staying that nearby hotel that were victims of Sandy, which I got to speak to, and my heart just went out to them. I mean, they're true, victims. That's not even the word of what these people were. And, I believe they're still struggling, but rebuilding is coming along, and it is doing better. But, again, it's things that these people lost that they'll never get back, and, that hurts.
Right. Oh, definitely. I'm sure it does. I mean, just looking at the pictures of devastation and just thinking to yourself, God, we are so lucky. My goodness gracious. And now, do you foresee that down the road for yourself personally? Are there charities out there or organizations out there that you think you'll partner with and do more work with in the future?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the things that we're doing this year is we're getting more involved with charities and working with people. Even if we just have organizations come on our show just to promote who they are and people can get more information, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
That's like the least thing that we can do to help out.
That's awesome. Absolutely wonderful. Yay. And word on the street is Jason's headed to Manhattan. Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct.
Oh, my God. Tell us about
this. Our premiere
date
is next month.
Oh, my God. This is exciting. So how did all that come about?
It was actually just kind of I actually went into the city several weeks ago, or now it's several months ago, with just my reel, my resume, looking for agent representation, because now I'm trying to broaden what I do. I'm trying to get into more hosting gigs, or maybe I could, be on a television show as an actor or so. So I'm just submitting my reel, and we happened to drop by one of the television stations in Manhattan with a reel, and it was something that they didn't have. It's, they liked what they saw, and they offered me a spot, 4 p.m. on Mondays.
Oh, my God, how exciting is this?
So we're expanding our audience. And we are very excited, me especially, because, again, somebody who's never done this before, to have these kind of opportunities, it's incredible.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. Now, if I were to ask you, in a perfect world over the course of the next couple of years, what do you foresee for the future? Do you have some future goals, things set up? What else can we expect from you in the future?
I definitely plan to continue my show. I plan to do it much bigger and better than it is now, and that's always what the goal is. Every year we want to step it up. First starting out, we have, as I call it, like a beginner set. We want to revamp the set of the show. We want to build something new. We've redone our opening. We're adding more on-location shoots. So as the years go on, it's just going to get bigger and better in that aspect. And it's also a learning process, especially for me, because, again, I don't have education on this. So I'm kind of like going with the flow, so to speak. So I'm always thinking, I'm always looking to revamp things. And, again, going forward with a new set. There is a studio in Manhattan that we do have our eye on that by the fall time, this coming fall, we do plan to just relocate the show and have it filmed in Manhattan as well.
Okay. I got you.
So that's wonderful. That's our next goal, actually.
This is so cool. My goodness gracious. Now, I wanted to also throw this out there. If people are listening, if they happen to have show ideas, suggestions, comments, feedback, etc., how do they go about getting that to you?
They can visit our website, which I'll give it to you, but really the easiest way is by email. We get a lot of emails. Although we don't get to them all in one day, we do get to them, so feel free to write into us. And the email address is thejasonshow@yahoo.com. That's TheJasonshow@yahoo.com.
Awesome, absolutely. Unless, of course, you want Kiefer Sutherland on the show. Then you interview you and you say, put him on your show, please. Just throwing that pitch out there again. That'd be a really good show, really good rating. People love him. Jack Bauer, what can I say? I did want to forget to mention this, and you need to correct me if I miss anything here. Jason obviously has two Facebook profiles, yourself, your personal one, and, of course, one for your show. You are on YouTube, obviously. He has a Twitter handle, which is at Jason Galka, Galka, for those that don't know how to spell it. Show, Monday, 5:30, Channel 20 through Cablevision. I also have the site, jasongalka.wix.com. Any other ways to find you social media-wise?
We are on Pinterest. That's something new. And it's funny because I actually just started my Twitter like maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. Like I'm just getting into it. Like you wouldn't believe how like technology stupid I really am.
I know.
I'm lucky I can work Facebook. But, people can certainly like my show page, the Jason Galka Show on Facebook, or you can even friend request me, Jason Galka. I will come up, and you'll see me. You'll see my, my profile picture is me with a guest on my set. It's very colorful, and I am on Twitter, as you say. We just started Pinterest. Yeah. That's something new that we're on.
Okay.
And whatever other kind of social networking we have, we'll be on it. Luckily for me, I have somebody who handles that for me.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm looking to do that because it's like it gets a little overwhelming at times. If you're not on the social media, people don't notice you. You know what I mean? You got to be out there.
I downloaded this new app. I don't know if you have like the iPhone or the iPad or anything, but there's this thing called Hootsuite, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. And you can link your Facebook, your Twitter, or any other social network that you have to it, and you write one status, and you can schedule it. So, like, if I'm sitting here at night, I'll think of things. If I want to do a casting call, if I want to advertise a show, I could schedule the tweet or the Facebook message to go out, and it'll just automatically do it. So that's another cool thing. So you don't have to sit there constantly tweeting. You can schedule things. See, I'm learning a lot.
He's educated, folks. See that? He's not only smart and cute, but he knows social media, so this is a cool thing. Awesome. Well, great. Two last things I want to cover before I'm going to let you go because I can tell that my voice is about to die on me. First of all, I am, in case you don't know this, and I think I've told Jason this, but of course I usually try to get to New York 2 times in a year. So hopefully with any luck at all, I can come to visit you on the show because I would absolutely love to see you.
Oh,
I've
please
seen you.
Do. Yes.
Oh, I do. I would love that. I mean, I've watched that, as far as YouTube, etc., but seeing the live thing is much, much different. And I have some great friends that would just love to work with you. I think mutual partnership and networking is always a really, really good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing, the best I've always saved for last, which is on Sin's Chat Corner, the last thing we always do is I always take 30 seconds to tell the person on my show exactly what I think of him. So hopefully you're sitting down because it can be a little overwhelming. So I'm going to give you my overall assessment of Jason. This is what I know to be true in just researching you and now talking to you and watching your show. There's 4 things that I've taken away from both the interview and from, like I said, learning about you. First and foremost, I find your content as well as your mannerisms to be refreshingly out of the ordinary. I get to interview lots and lots of people who a lot of times have a tendency to be over themselves, meaning that they're just the next big thing all the time and they just take their success for granted. You are very humble. You are very hardworking. You always try to go above and beyond with the messages that you send, the material that you do, the presentation of how it's done. I think from a professional standpoint, you're amazing at what you do, and especially because of the fact that you are not versed as it relates to actual training and education. That I find impressive. The fact that when I read your Facebook page and I look at your fiance's page, you're so flattering to one another and you have such a loving demeanor about the way you talk about your friends and your loved ones. I have a huge appreciation for that. You present yourself very well. You're a very handsome fellow and you're very down to earth. You're very approachable. You're very likable. And I think that you're just lovely. I said that before, but now I got to talk to you. I'm really, really impressed, and I think you're just, I just think you're great. I don't know what else I can tell you I do. No,
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. Most people don't get a chance to be able to, especially when they're in the same field. There can be a lot of competition, whether it's entertainment on TV, radio, and otherwise. Our job out here is to be able to inform, to educate, and moreover, to be supportive of one another. So certainly I hope at some given point in time I will be able to stand very proudly and say, I knew this guy when he was only doing this show and this show. And then someday you're going to be some kind of a big star, and I'm going to say, I had him first, hopefully, when then you let it go. My fingers are so crossed
for you. So much for that.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, and hopefully, if I get lucky, I am traveling in June, so I might be able to get there to see you in Manhattan. We'll have to see. I'm trying to work it on my schedule.
Yes.
That would be so cool.
That's awesome because we have so many great shows lined up in June, so you'd be coming just in time.
Cool. That's absolutely perfect. My goodness gracious, yes.
Thank you.
And just to let you know and to let your fans know or people that listen to this today, and if they did miss it, about a half hour after we get done, the show becomes an archived episode on Blog Talk Radio. So anybody can go back all year round and listen to it. I'm going to go ahead on my personal page and my show page, post up all your links so that people can follow you, friend you, or find your show, obviously. And I would consider it a personal favor if you come back and visit me again anytime, because I'd love to have you back on the show.
I absolutely would. Thank you so much. This is so much fun. You're such a good host, too. I love the questions that you ask.
Thank you. You know, I've been getting pretty good at this after 2 years. It's a lot of practice. And thank you for putting up with this girl that sounds like a guy today, because I sound terrible. I promise next time I'll have a voice and I'll be back to normal. And I'm
now in the same thing, honey. My voice is kicking out now, so it's perfect timing.
So you know what I'm saying, right? This is perfect timing that we're ending.
We're battling colds here.
I know, and isn't it ridiculous? It's like try doing a show when you're miserable, right? It's like this totally sucks. But you made
I did that over the winter time. Oh my goodness, I don't know how I didn't sneeze for a half an hour straight. I don't know how it's possible.
Right? And the climate that you're in, it's just like absolutely nuts. And I'm like, great, in 3 hours.
I guess it is mind over matter.
Exactly. Well, there you go. And then, like I said, try functioning. But you know what? I think we did a good job. I think people. That's right, and we did it damn well, my friend. And I will be in touch within the next month. I'll let you know my travel plans, and definitely you keep me posted on what's going on. I will.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, Sid. I had a great time.
Oh, me too, darling. I will talk to you very soon.
Okay.
All right, take care. All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Folks, was he just not absolutely, absolutely wonderful? Again, that was Jason Galka, and the spelling on that is Galka. And just to go through it again, Facebook, he has a personal page. Jason, again, last name Galka, as well as the show itself, which is the Jason Galka Show. He can also have a show watched and found on YouTube. He has a Twitter handle, which is at Jason Galka. His show can be watched Monday on Channel 20, and that's at 5:30, and that's under the Cablevision area, or excuse me, Cablevision is a cable carrier. And then www.jasongallka.wix.com. So I want to say once again, thank you so much to Jason for coming on the show today. Congratulations, of course, to both himself and his fiancée, who I wish nothing but success and happiness for the future. I wanted to remind everybody that tomorrow's show, so excited to report 2 o'clock Central Standard Time, none other than fellow radio show host, Modern Problems radio show, Davey Love himself. Another long-awaited interview, which I'm so excited about. So make sure that we want to tune in tomorrow to listen to him. The last subject I wanted to brace real quickly before I let you guys go, or before my voice actually officially goes away, is to keep everyone informed and to ask for special wishes and prayers today. I have a very dear friend by the name of Crystal Welch, and that's W-E-L-C-H. Unfortunately, this last weekend on Saturday, her family suffered the most horrific tragedy, and that her granddaughter, who was a little less than 8 months old, actually was found on Saturday having passed on from what we believe is to be sudden infant death syndrome. I must tell you on a personal note how very devastating this is for me. These are friends of mine, and this has taken just a huge toll on them emotionally, financially. They are just in a tailspin. And so what I wanted to ask everyone is, I myself am personally involved. If you're in the Milwaukee area, please be sure to check out my personal page, and then I'll be listing each and every one of the benefits I'm holding for her and her family, and that's tonight and tomorrow night. And again on Friday, I'll be back at Scuttlebutts and supporting Jimmy G, of course. Special shout out to him. All the work he's done, all the time he's put in, everything that he's done to help us. Thank you so much. I love you dearly and more than I can tell you. Tonight, this evening, of course, today was the day in which Crystal unfortunately had to lay her baby granddaughter to rest. And sadly, of course, my commitments kept me here in Wisconsin. So this is a personal plea from myself to all of you in the listening audience or anyone that will listen to this show in the future. Today is special significance for that reason. So I would ask that this evening I will be posting up a song which we will be playing at a particular time. I would ask that all of you, once you see this, take a moment of silence to send prayer and reflection for Sophie, that happens to be the little girl's name, so that we have a moment of remembrance for her, so that the world, even for just a brief moment, will recognize that this little life, even so young, had touched so many lives and was so significant. So please make it a point to watch my page for that. And again, one more reminder, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow, Modern Problems radio show host Davey Love. You guys have yourself a great evening. Enjoy the weather, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.